Bachir Gemayel was a Lebanese leader and president-elect. He was a senior member of the Phalange Party and the supreme commander of the Lebanese Forces militia during the early years of the Lebanese Civil War. He was elected president on August 23, 1982 while the country was torn by civil war and occupied by both Israel and Syria. He was assassinated on September 14, 1982, along with 26 others, when a bomb exploded in the Beirut Phalange headquarters. The bomb was planted by Habib Tanious Shartouni. The Federal Bureau of Investigation blamed the Syrian Social Nationalist Party. Early life. Bachir was born in the Attribution neighborhood of Beirut on November 10, 1947, the youngest of 6 children. The Gemayel family originated from Bachir village in the Atn district of Lebanon and is one of the most influential Christian families in the country. His father was Bachir Gemayel, who founded the Phalange Party in 1936 as a youth movement. Bachir Gemayel attended the Jesuit College Notre Dame de Jamhur and the Institution Moderne du Liban Fana. He completed his university education at St. Joseph University in Beirut. After teaching for 3 years at the Lebanese Modern Institute, he graduated in 1971 with a bachelor's degree in law and another in political sciences in 1973. In 1971, Gemayel studied at the Center for American and International Law near Dallas, Texas in the United States. Qualifying in 1972, he joined the Bar Association and opened an office in Hamra Street, West Beirut. Early activities in the Kayeb Party. Bachir became a member of the Kayeb Party's youth section when he was 12 years old. Bachir realized the dangers that surrounded Lebanon in 1958, so he spent a lot of time with the organized political wing of the Kayeb Party. He attended the meetings organized by the Kayeb student section, and he was the president of the Kayeb Circle in St. Joseph University between 1965 and 1971. In the late 1960s, he underwent paramilitary training in Bachir, and he was appointed squad leader of a militia unit of the Kayeb Regulatory Forces, KRF. Then in the early 1970s, he formed the A-OE Bachir Squad A within the RKF, where he became acquainted with the basics of military combat. In 1968, he participated in a student colloquium organized by the newspaper Orient, following events which occurred across Lebanese universities between the Muslim and leftist pan-Arabist students supporting the Palestinians in Lebanon on one side, and Lebanese Christian nationalist students on the other. After the 1968-69 clashes between the Lebanese army and the PLO, Bachir gathered a group of Christian students, and started training them in the Kayeb-run Tabri training camp, located near Shari in the Kesawan district mountains. This was the start of what would later become the Lebanese Forces. At this stage, he was a junior militia commander under the orders of William Harwe, the founder and head of the KRF. In 1970, Bachir was briefly kidnapped by Palestinian militants in Lebanon and taken to the Tel al-Zoutar refugee camp. He was released 8 hours later. Bachir became a member of the A-OEBG Squad A formed by William Harwe. He was a revolutionary in the party. He became close with Jean Nader, the leader of Attribution at that time, and became the vice president of the Lebanese Capital District, a position that he held from 1971 till 1975. Bachir became the head of the A-OEBG Squad A after its members found him as a leader more close to their views. This group was formed of 12 specially trained members such as Fouad Abou Nader, Fodi Frem, Eli Habaika and others. They were fierce fighters, and they were known for their violent performance in the field. This group was out of the direct control of the party. He had his own views and principles, and he wanted to run for the vice presidency of the party, but his men said to him that they want him as the leader of the A-OE Lebanese Forces A and not the VP of a party. In addition, many members of the party did not want him as the VP because he was the son of Bachir Gemayel, the founder and president of the party. The elections were cancelled and did not take place until after his assassination. He submitted his resignation from the party in 1976, but it was rejected. This was because the Kayeb Party had approved the entrance of the Syrian army to Lebanon to put an end to the war, but Bachir refused to accept this, being strongly against the Syrian intervention because he believed that Syria wanted to annex Lebanon. He came to this conclusion because the Syrian officials repeatedly stated that Lebanon is part of Syria and that the Syrian army does na Euro unregistered trademark T need anyo Euro unregistered trademark S permission to enter Lebanon. Moreover, at that time, the Syrian educational system used to teach that Lebanon is a Syrian district. Military command. In 1975, Gemayel was accused by the LNM of being responsible for the Black Saturday massacre of Palestinians and Lebanese Muslims. According to Phalange member Karim Pakradani, Bachir admitted to him that while being in an emotional state for the killing of 4 Phalangists earlier that day, he ordered his militiamen into the streets. Bachir added that when the situation developed into something he did not agree with and civilians were being killed, he tried to stop the killings but failed to. However, according to Michel Samaha, another Phalange member, Bachir was outside Beirut and that Bachir arrived after the killing of civilians had started. Michel Samaha added that Bachir was one of the many senior members of the Phalange party who tried to stop this massacre. Christian East Beirut was ringed by heavily fortified Palestinian camps from which kidnappings and sniping against Lebanese civilians became a daily routine. Christian East Beirut became besieged by the PLO camps, with severe shortages of food and fuel. This unbearable situation led the Beirut forces and their allied Christian militias to besiege the Palestinian camps embedded in Christian East Beirut one at a time and bring them down. On January 18, 1976, Bachir led the invasion of the heavily fortified Crentina camp that was located near the strategic Beirut harbor. About 1,000 PLO fighters and civilians were killed. The Palestinian PLO and Assassinated forces retaliated by attacking the isolated defenseless Christian town of Demise about 20 miles south of Beirut on the coast, during the Eden Massacre in which 1,000 Christian civilians were killed and 5,000 were sent fleeing north by boat, since all roads were blocked off. The Maronites retaliated with the invasion of the Tel al-Zoutar camp that same year. Bachir played an important role in the last stages of the battle. He sent a group of his forces that moved through the sewers and they blew up the ammunition storage in the camp. This incident was considered to be the lethal blow that led the fall of the camp. The Christian militias also fought against the PLO and LNM militias at the Battle of the Hotels in central Beirut. Bachir led the battle for the holiday and that had an important strategic location. The battle was a success for Bachir's troops, and they were able to move the PLO out of the hotel. After ensuring the safety of the rear lines and their effectiveness, Bachir and his troops decided to abandon the hotel. In 1976, with the death of William Harvey, killed by a sniper during the Battle of Tal el-Zoutar, Bachir became head of the Beirut Regulatory Forces militia. Later that year, he became a leading member of the Lebanese Front, a coalition of several Christian parties, and commander of their military wing, the Lebanese Forces. A military coalition of several Christian militias which not only opposed the PLO but also the Syrian army presence, who had entered Lebanon at first to assist in defeating Palestinian militants, before turning into occupiers. Bachir led his troops in the infamous Hundred Days War in Lebanon in 1978, in which the Lebanese forces successfully resisted the Syrian shelling and attacking of eastern Beirut for about 3 months before an Arab-brokered agreement forced the Syrians to end the siege. Syrians took high buildings such as Burj Rizq and Burj Al Noor using snipers and heavy weapons against civilians. The soldiers stayed for 90 days. Another major clash took place near the Sodeko area in Akrafia where the Lebanese forces fought ferociously and led the Syrian army out of the Rizq building. This war led to the withdrawal of the Syrian troops from East Beirut and the Free Christian areas. At this time, Israel was the primary backer of the Lebanese Front unregistered trademark S militia. In 1981 at Salah copyright in the Bekaa, the largest Christian town in the east, confronted one of the biggest battles both military and political between the Lebanese forces and the Syrian occupying forces. The Lebanese forces were able to confront them and reverse the result of the Battle of 1981 with the help of 92 Lebanese forces soldiers sent from Beirut as well as the town's inhabitants. Regardless of the very bad weather and heavy bombing, convoys were sent in the snow to Zul. The Battle of Zul gave the Lebanese cause a new perspective in the international communities, and by some was regarded as military and diplomatic victory. It strengthened Bachir Gemayel's position because of his leadership and important role in this battle. The battle started in April 2, 1981, and finished with a ceasefire, and Lebanese internal security forces gendarmes were sent to Zul. The 92 Lebanese Forces commandos returned to Beirut on July 1, 1981. Tensions within the Lebanese Front. Despite their increasing success in their battle against the PLO and the Syrian troops, there are two factors that led to the Lebanese Front's demise. Following the killing of many Falangist members, in addition to a senior Falangist by members of the Marada Brigade militia, which was led by a fellow member of the Lebanese Front, Tony Frangier, Bachir called for a meeting to decide on what to do about this situation. At first, the decision was to capture Tony Frangier, and force him to surrender the members of the Marada militia who killed the Phalangists. However, there was concern about the consequences of this move. So, the decision was changed after many talks between the Phalangists present at the meeting. It was decided that the goal of the operation would be to capture the members of the Marada militia who killed the Phalangists, and it would be done on Tuesday to be sure that Tony Frangier would have finished his weekend vacation and left Eden. On June 13, 1978, Bachir sent a squadron of his men led by Samir Georgia and Eli Habelka to Eden, but what Bachir did not know is that Tony Frangier never left Eden since his car did not work. As soon as the squadron arrived, bullets were flying all over their heads, so they retaliated, and this led to the killing of Tony Frangier and his family, in addition to tens of members of the Marada militia. The incident is known as the Eden Massacre. Bachir was very angry about what happened, but he stood by his men. In 1980, in order to stop the clashes happening inside the Christian areas, between the Kayab militia and the Tigers militia, and in order to eliminate the possibility of an intra-Christian war, Bachir sent his troops to the town of Safra, where Dani Shamoun and members of his Tigers militia were vacationing. With full support from Dani's father, former President Kamil Shamoun, the Tigers under the control of Elias El-Hanach were exterminated in what was later named Safra Massacre. Dani's life was spared and he sought refuge in West Beirut, but Kamil Shamoun's support of the attack was interpreted as him believing that his Sony unregistered trademark S militia was getting too out of control. Israeli invasion of Lebanon and Bachir's election. Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982. Defense Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, met with Bachir months earlier, telling him that the Israeli Defense Force were planning an invasion to uproot the PLO threat to Israel and to move them out of Lebanon. While Bachir did not control Israeli unregistered trademark S actions in Lebanon, the support Israel gave the Lebanese forces, militarily and politically, angered many Lebanese leftists. Bachir met with Hani al-Hassan and told him that Israel would enter and wipe them out. Bachir told him to leave Lebanon peacefully before it was too late. Hani left and no reply was given to Bachir. Israel invaded and the PLO were expelled from Lebanon in August 1982. During the invasion, the Israelis wanted the Lebanese forces to assist the Israeli army militarily by fighting the Palestinians and Muslims in West Beirut. However, Bachir refused that because he said that his forces would not assist an invading army. By now, Bachir had announced his candidacy for president. He was backed by the United States, who sent peacekeeping troops to oversee the withdrawal of the PLO from Lebanon. Bachir had requested that they stay longer to keep Lebanon stable until he could reunite it, but his request was denied. The Mossad also contributed his presidency. On August 23, 1982, being the only one to declare his bid, Bachir was elected president. On September 1, 1982, 2 weeks before his assassination and only 1 week after his election, Bachir met the Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin in Nahariya. During the meeting, Begin demanded that Bachir sign a peace treaty with Israel as soon as he took office in return of Israel's earlier support of Lebanese forces, and he also told Bachir that the IDF would stay in South Lebanon if the peace treaty wasn't signed. Bachir was furious at Begin and told him that the Lebanese forces didn't fight for 7 years and that they didn't sacrifice thousands of soldiers to free Lebanon from the Syrian army and the PLO so that Israel can take their place. Bachir also added that he will not sign the peace treaty without national consensus on the matter. Begin was reportedly angry at Bachir for his public denial of Israel's support. Bachir refused signing a peace treaty, arguing that time is needed to reach consensus with Lebanese Muslims and the Arab nations. This angered the Israelis because they knew that it is almost impossible for the Lebanese Muslims to agree on a peace treaty. They realized that Bachir was starting to distance himself from them. On September 12, 1982, in an attempt to fix the relations between Begin and Bachir, Ariel Sharon had a secret meeting with Bachir in Baqir. During the meeting, Bachir told Sharon that the Lebanese army would soon enter into the Palestinian camps to disarm any remaining fighters. They also agreed that the Lebanese army would attack the Syrian army's positions in Lebanon assisted by the Israeli army. In addition, Sharon tried to convince Bachir about signing a peace treaty, but Bachir did not change his position on this matter. Bachir had planned to use the IDF to push the Syrian army out of Lebanon and then use his relations with the Americans to pressure the Israelis into withdrawing from Lebanese territory. By taking this move, Bachir crossed all international red lines about Lebanon, and this was believed to be the main reason for his assassination. He tried to force a solution for the Lebanese war at the expense of Israel, Syria, and part of the American administration. Time as President-elect, August 25. Deployment of International Separation Forces, August 30. Yasser Arafat leaves Beirut to Athens, September 1. Meeting between Presidents Bachir and Elias Sarkis with American Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger, September 2. Opening the path of Sodexo that used to be considered as a separation line between East and West Beirut, September 4. The Lebanese army enters West Beirut for the first time since 1973, September 9. The Lebanese army enters the Palestinian camp Bouj el-Barajeh and that was restricted since 1969 by the Cairo Agreement, September 10. The International Separation Forces leaves Lebanon after completing its task, September 11. Beirut's economic market resumes its activities. Bachir meets with former Lebanese Prime Minister Saeb Salam. September 13. Beirut seaport resumes its activities. During these 21 days, fighters from the Lebanese forces were prohibited from wearing their army clothes and also from carrying their weapons in the streets. The Lebanese army was the only armed force in the streets. Institutions, Al-Ashbal, its first camp was organized under the patronage of Bashir and Jbeil Scout camping grounds. Popular committees, launched by Bashir in 1976, their aim is the FIOPLI unregistered trademark's participation in the organization of daily life. Hamad Airport, created by Bashir in 1976 for special tourist trips and for the export of agricultural products. Radio Free Lebanon, founded by Bashir in 1978 to explain to the world the reality of the Lebanese cause. Radio 102, out of Bashir unregistered trademark's desire for a commercial station in order to alleviate the burden of the war. Delta Computer, founded in 1979 as a specialized information body related to all components of social organization. Help Lebanon, founded to take care of children and alleviate the consequences of the war. Lebanese Broadcasting Corporation, launched in 1980 as a national, educational, cultural and non-commercial television. Gamma Group, an institution including specialists to plan the building of a modern state in all of its sectors. The Lebanese Cultural Association, created in 1982 to deal with intellectual, literature and artistic affairs as well as Lebanese civilization. The Crayfium Merchants Committee, created in 1982 to revive the economy and trade and organize the market. The Crayfium Festival Committee, created in 1982 to organize fairs and exhibitions and to encourage artistic activities. Assassination, on September 14, 1982, Bachir was addressing fellow Phalangists at their headquarters in Crayfium for the last time as their leader and for the last time as commander of the Lebanese forces. At 4:10 p.m., a bomb was detonated at the headquarters, killing Bachir and 26 other Phalang politicians. Whereas rumors spread that Bachir had gotten out alive, it was confirmed the next morning by the Lebanese Prime Minister Shafik Wazan that Bachir was indeed assassinated. Habib Shartouni, a member of the Syrian Social Nationalist Party and also a Maronite Christian, was later arrested for the assassination. His sister was living in the apartment above the room Bachir was in. He had visited her the previous day and planted the bomb in her apartment. The next day, he called her and told her to get out of the building. Once she was out, he detonated the bomb from a few miles away from the building. When he came back to check on his sister, he was immediately arrested. He later confessed to it, saying he had done this because Bachir had sold the country to Israel. A reporter was heard telling him, "You didn't kill a man, you killed a country." He was imprisoned for 8 years, until Syrian troops took over Lebanon at the end of the war and freed him on October 13, 1990. Gemayel did not condemn Habib Shartouni because of immense Syrian pressure. Condemnations poured in from around the world, including from the United Nations Security Council and Resolution 520, as well as from American President Ronald Reagan. Reagan had been one of Bachir's most staunch supporters, saying this promising young leader had brought the light of hope to Lebanon. Various theories exist as to other parties that had a hand in the assassination. Many point fingers at the Syrian government and then Syrian President Hafez al-Assad for having knowledge of the assassination attempt and for backing Shartouni. Even after they kept pressuring him, Bachir refused to immediately give Israel peace. Bachir Gemayel's older brother Gemayel was then elected as president, serving from 1982 to 1988. Rather different in temperament, Gemayel was widely regarded as more moderate than his brother. Many of Bachir's followers were dissatisfied with him. Eventually, the Lebanese Forces became independent from the Phalange and its own political party. Personal life: Bachir Gemayel's widow, Solange Gemayel, works to keep his legacy alive through the Bachir Gemayel Foundation, a political and informational organization. Bachir's eldest daughter, Maya, was murdered on February 23, 1980 at 18 months of age by a car bomb intended for her father. He had 2 surviving children. His second daughter, Yuma, was born later in the year and received her degree in political science in Paris. She is now working towards her master's in management at ESA in Beirut. Gemayel's son, Nadim, who was born a few months before Bachir was killed, was a law student and political activist, and was elected as a member of the Lebanese parliament in 2009. Books about Bachir: Damir wa Tariq fi Rajol el Nadar, Words from Bachir. See also, List of attacks in Lebanon, Gemayel, Lebanese Civil War, Lebanese Forces, Kayab Party, Kayab Regulatory Forces. References. External links: Bachir Gemayel Community Site, the Lebanese Phalanges, Kayab, Bachir Gemayel Squad website.